All right. Welcome officially. My name is Deborah Gallant, and with me today is Greg Russack, who is one of our Entrepreneurs Forever facilitators and a sales trainer and coach. Today, we have for you a topic that I think is really important called mapping your customer journey. And if you're not exactly sure what that is, but you came anyway, well, good for you. We'll talk a lot more about it, and I'll have a worksheet for you in just a moment. So I think most of you know Entrepreneurs Forever has a mission to empower all small business owners to grow thriving businesses that sustain their families and support their communities. We do that mostly through monthly peer groups, which I can see because I know many of you, most of you are members of. I've started putting next month's event up front in my presentations because if I don't, I completely forget to come back and tell you about it. Next month, I have Christine Ferguson Rao, who is actually a colleague of Greg's. He was the one who suggested this topic, talking about cash flow and lines of credit. So if you have ever thought, gee, I wonder if that's something I should have, and how do I even out my cash flow so I can pay myself and pay my employees and my rent, that will be a great one for you. Note, this presentation does not take the place of professional advice from your own paid advisors. So Greg, why don't you start telling them what we're going to cover? I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. No, actually, I have to keep sharing for you to be able to see this. So you do that, and I'll be attaching the handout for them in just a moment.
Sounds good. Thank you, Deborah. And again, welcome everyone. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time on a Monday afternoon to join us here and to learn a little bit more about the importance of a customer journey. Like most other things in business, I think a customer journey is something that can. Whoop,
there we go. Sorry, I skipped
that's okay.
too far.
That's all right. That's right. We can decide how we're going to define what that journey looks like. What are the steps? And breaking things down into manageable bite-sized pieces, I think, is a really good way to attack any complicated or complex issue. We're going to talk about what some of the pitfalls are and how to avoid them. And one of the pitfalls is just to not have an idea about what your customer journey is. Ways that we can optimize that customer journey for obviously maximum benefit and payback to you, and understanding just how it is that what I like to call a suspect becomes a prospect, becomes a customer. And then, of course, any open Q&A that we want to have afterwards.
And we do record the whole thing except the Q&A at the end.
So when we think about what is a customer journey, it can apply to any kind of business, really. And it really starts with how your customer becomes aware of you, begins to get an appreciation for it and understanding about what you really stand for as an organization, what they think about you and your products or services in terms of a brand. And then what we really try to understand is, so how does that look from the customer's perspective at each touch point along the way? What is it that they are experiencing? What is it that you want them to experience at those different steps? And then some understanding about what the difference really is between a buyer journey and a marketing funnel, and what that really means in terms of how you're going to establish and build really the kind of understanding and awareness you want that customer to have about you, your goods and services, and what it really means to them to go through this journey.
I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. And I wonder if any of you who came on this want to share sort of what customer journey meant to you, or why you thought this was something that was important. When I think about customer journey, sometimes I think about how many of us don't think about all the touch points that we have with our customers. This includes, did anyone ever have a service person come to their house in their beat up truck wearing, dirty jeans, and they don't have the business card, or they have a business card with the phone number crossed out? Those are all brand touches, and we all forget that they're out there. Who else has had a weird or has thought about customer journeys at all? Anyone?
Hi. Um,
Hi, Bea. It's nice to see you.
yeah,
How are you?
good, good. So I have been thinking about our customer journey, and we provide services. So it's not a product; it's more well design architecture services. Um, I One of the reasons why I really am interested in this workshop is to understand basically the final stretch, because I think that like we do a decent job at the say getting the word out and even being liked by people, but then the trust portion is another thing. And I'm actually very interested, you mentioned the difference between the sales funnel and let's say the marketing, well, the sales funnel and the buyer journey. So I'm hoping to really learn more how to get at the end of both.
That is where we're trying to head, right? Is the interaction that creates that trust that your prospect needs to have, especially in bigger ticket, less transactional oriented kinds of relationships. Understanding how they get to where they are is different than thinking about how do I fill a funnel up with opportunities by investing in marketing, for example. Thank you, Bia. Thank you. Anyone else want to offer something?
I mean, I joined this because when I think that, the customer's journey, retention for me is something I strive for because my customers are my business. And I just wanted to see how I could build upon that and enhance what I currently do.
Great. I mean, I hope to. I got to admit, I'm not sure who that was because it looks like everybody's still muted. It must be somebody dialed in. I apologize. Do you mind if I ask who was that?
Andy.
Oh, Mandy
Oh,
is
that's you, Mandy.
okay. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you, Mandy.
All right. I did just drop the handout in the chat. It's a Google Doc, and you should be able to get your own copy of it. If someone could just confirm that you got it, that would be great, because then I'll go back to the screen share.
Yeah, that works.
Thanks, David and B. It's this is new for us. I didn't know that you could do it. You could share a Google Doc by hitting /copy. It's like, huh, who knew that worked? I'm copying it again for anyone who missed it the first time. There you go. All right, I'm going back to sharing screen. And we're gonna pick it up from there. Okay, view, slideshow. Okay, so why are we mapping the customer journey, Greg?
Well, again, what we really want to try and understand is our customers as best as we can, and what they potentially would get from us that would satisfy a need, and establish again that level of trust that we need in terms of their perspective on what we can do as a solutions provider. It's also going to be extremely helpful in understanding where your marketing touch points should be. It's also going to be helpful in understanding where do things stall or go off the track or even come to a complete end. By understanding what that customer journey is like, you'll be able to not only spend your marketing dollars more wisely, be better prepared for keeping legitimate opportunities moving forward, and as the slide indicates, improving on customer satisfaction and loyalty, and that can be really important, especially in business where there's a lot more opportunity than how that relationship begins, and that could be in B2B, but that could also very much be in B2C in retail environments. Last but not least, and one of my favorite outcomes of understanding a customer journey is being able to be more accurate, more confident in forecasting what sales is going to look like this month, this quarter, next year. Understanding how the customer gets from beginning to end and continues to value a relationship with you is key to being able to predict revenues and growth with confidence. So where do we start? It starts with having an understanding of who your ideal customer is. Those of us that have been in business for a long time and have done lots of different things in lots of different places can have a pretty broad definition of an ideal customer. I think what I would always advise folks to do is don't diminish the definition of the word ideal, because it's hard to be really good at a lot of things for a lot of people. There's a lot to be said for understanding who your best customers are and able to kind of segment that down beyond just an industry or a company size, but down to buyer personas. Classic example is, as a small startup kind of an organization, you're not going to have that much appeal to people who are looking for safe decisions and safe choices. You need to be looking for people who are looking for a competitive advantage or looking at new technology or new services as a way to improve their business before their competition catches on. Customer journeys are also really important for getting the kind of data that you need in order to analyze just how well are you moving into that market or how well you're serving the ones that you already serve. Customers that end up in targeted efforts for marketing and sales, by definition, that is where you want them to spend their time. That's where you want marketing dollars to get spent, is where the best opportunity for a return is going to come from. And having this appreciation for how your customer begins their journey, how they move through it, and they'll be doing things before they get to you in most cases, is really important to understand, again, where are you going to invest time, effort, and money and get the best returns for it.
I guess one of the things that I always circle back to, and those of you who are regulars on my webinars know this, is that you can sell to anybody. I don't really care. But when you're doing marketing and you're doing outbound marketing and being proactive, why wouldn't you shoot for whoever your ideal customer is? It's like Bonnie, who I know is on the call, is a baker and she creates the most delicious things. Well, she could sell those to anyone, but honestly, her target market has to be people who can be regular buyers of her baked goods in bulk on a regular weekly basis, who are within 15 to 20-mile driving radius of the place that she's baking. And being as clear as possible about that makes it so much easier to make the marketing decisions that you need to make. Chris is a framer, right? You can make the world's best impression on people who don't collect art or don't have art or will never have art. And it's like, well, I'm glad they're a fan, but I really want people who have the money and like art and appreciate the value of framing it well. And again, are either within driving distance or, I don't know, do people ship to you, Chris? But in any case, they might, but the fact is the best customers, the ideal customers, are the people who can drive their stuff to you in their own car. So thinking this through at the beginning before you think about the journey makes sense. And if you haven't done this exercise before, I highly encourage you to do it. I don't want you to leave this webinar, but I will, in the follow-up email, send you some materials that we've created. And I did a webinar previously on who's your ideal customer, because figuring this out is really instrumental in the rest of it. And Greg gave me one example. I don't know, is this a format that you use, or was it stolen from someone else?
So not stolen, only borrowed.
Okay.
This is actually, and HubSpot gives you the ability to do this, I think, for free without even having to have a HubSpot account. You can input some what you would consider to be some definitions for what is an ideal customer. And part of what this really demonstrates, and I really think is valuable, is to literally give this ideal customer and this buyer persona a name. visualize who that person would be. Now, clearly, not every person is going to fit that definition identically, but if one buyer type is Jessica Johnson, and here you can see the kind of characteristics that she would have as an ideal customer. Well, part of what that understanding who your ICP is, your ideal customer profile, means that that can be a really powerful way to guide your efforts. And again, you don't have to have just one of these, but you do have to have some idea about, do senior citizens or children fit your profile? Well, maybe no, they don't. And so, I mean, those are extreme examples compared to Jessica there. I get it. But if you're going to do a good job of moving someone from what I call the suspect into a prospect, the customer journey is how that transition begins. They can find out about you through all the marketing investments that you can make, but you got to make sure those are targeted to the kinds of people in the kinds of places at the right kind of time. If you're going to reach someone and they're going to start to launch their own journey towards understanding more about you, that suspect becomes a prospect then when that journey brings them to some level of engagement with you. They've filled out a form. They've sent you an email. They've even commented on social, whatever signal they can give you in terms of their awareness of you. That's when they become a prospect, and that's when you start to qualify that prospect. Now, again, I'm not an expert in the retail space, but in the retail space, if somebody is looking in my window, and I sometimes wish I was a baker, but then I'd have an issue with calorie intake. If they're outside looking in my window at my cakes and pies and things, I need to find a way to bring them inside the building. A simple smile through the glass might do it, but something else that's on the glass might also be the thing that gets them motivated to become now a prospect inside my store. Deborah's got a worksheet up here. I think we're going to use
what I
to
did
go
was
through a quick exercise.
Yeah, this is really meant for you. And I hope that none of you are thinking about this for the first time, because that would make me really sad. For some reason, there we go. Grammarly wants to go. So I'm encouraging you in your box on your worksheet to create a Jessica Johnson-like thing. For Chris, it's, art lovers, within 10-mile radius of my store. For Bonnie, it's, retail owners who don't have their own bakery, whatever it is. But that's where I want you to put it on the worksheet, because the rest of the worksheet, which is the journey part, the mapping, quote unquote, doesn't really work unless you have this. So I'm just going to say, take a moment or two. Again, I hope you're not thinking about this for the first time, and write something down. You can add more of these and down the road, and then they may have slightly different journeys as well. But it helps to start with that.
And one last thing while you're thinking about that, I would offer that this isn't meant to limit your opportunities. This is simply meant to provide good definition around where those opportunities exist, and to acknowledge that the reality is the more you can focus on the best customer type, the better off I think you will be, clearly, in the long run, and even in the short run. But again, it doesn't mean you can't have more than one target market. It doesn't mean you can't have more than one buyer type. What we're talking about here are the ideal customers and what their profiles look like.
And I think in this awareness stage, which is the first stage, and there's a box for you to make some notes here on your worksheet, is those suspects, right? Who are those ideal clients who aren't yet aware of you, and what are some of the ways they become aware of you? And I actually would encourage you to share them either in the chat or unmute yourself and give us some ideas of how do you build awareness? What does this first level look like? I'm going to share some ideas with you in a minute, but I'd love to have some of your contributions.
Could you please put back the slide with Jessica Johnson for inspiration?
Sure. I think I can.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
I know one of the ways I've been trying to be let others know about me is through referrals lately.
Can you say more about that, Mandy? How do you do that?
Um, so I started like I have a signature line now on my emails that let my customers know, every time I email them, it goes out so I don't have to remember, that just says, one of the greatest things you can do for me is refer me to your friends. And if I'm servicing a business, I always ask them, or let them know, hey, if you know any other business owners who might be interested in my services, I'd be glad to talk to them if you want to give them my contact information or set up an appointment. So just asking for that.
Actually, I love to hear that word "ask" because most of the time, if people like you, they're your customer, you've done a good job for them. Unless we ask them for a little bit of help, it might not occur to them right away. Or maybe it does, and it just takes you to give them a little nudge to
So
ask for
we have
is there
LinkedIn posts and speaking engagements, which Gloria has contributed. Those are great.
for sure. And again, depending on who your ideal customer is, you think about where is the best place to find them. Uh, LinkedIn is a great resource for sure. It's clearly not the only one though.
So here's some that Greg and I came up with. SEO, that's a big one. Ads, social media, case studies, blog, referrals. Yay, Mandy. And what's really interesting about referrals is it becomes part of the customer journey cycle at the end when we talk about repeat customers and using them as evangelists. Videos, live streaming, webinars. And Bonnie, you said you're struggling with finding shop owners, but I saw you sponsoring an event at the local chamber. So you have figured some of this out. You're just not giving yourself credit for it. Any other ways you can think of? Awareness. This is the first one, getting those suspects to become prospects. All right, we'll go on to the next step. Consideration. This is having them start to think about possibly buying from you. What are some of the touch points and actions at this stage? No one?
Gloria says website and content in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
Email, right? Because once they've actually reached out to you and you have a way to contact them, this is the next level beyond just being an anonymous lurker. A sales call, SMS, because you have their contact information, landing pages, maybe someone who walks in your store, that becomes a consideration, right? So that's an in-person conversation. Relevant, related, reputable, helpful content. Things that now make you seem like you're an authority on whatever it is.
Greg and Deborah, so far all the items that you've listed here seem to be delivery mechanisms. Are you also looking for specific types of content in order to fill in for this consideration?
Absolutely. Tell us
Sure.
what's your business, David?
So I have a boutique consulting company with a SaaS. We help people save time if they're in organizations. In fact, Greg works with me some. And I think that what I was thinking about here is that if you can deliver a financial analysis that shows that you're 5x, 10x better for your ICP, that is perhaps a way to get them to consider you.
And David is being modest. One of the other things that I think we kind of touched on a little bit in terms of awareness, but consideration is that next level up, is the idea of doing things like workshops, just like this one, where there's going to be demonstrable value to be delivered without uh, too strong of an ask to get there. Right. This is one of the things I love about Entrepreneurs Forever is we do these kinds of deep dives on a regular basis, and we're doing it because we want to be helpful. And if you have that sort of mindset about how you're going to reach those ideal customers and get them to start considering who you are, what you do, and the problems that you solve, everything that everybody's putting in the chat is a great idea. Send out emails with helpful information. Be part of it. And I know Biz is very active in the architectural community here in Pittsburgh. Be active in an organization and associations, but also provide valuable advice, services, even product to get them to want to know more about you. That's really what you're at here in the consideration stage of the customer journey. They have enough of an incentive now that they have awareness to start doing some of their own research. And that's where all these
I love
ideas
these
and assets come
ideas.
into play.
And some of this is samples, right? Just I bet if
Mhm.
somebody tasted what one of Bonnie's cakes, they'd order one for their birthday, just like I did. Anybody else?
Like doing a presentation.
Yep, that's great. All right, then we get to decision. This is actually getting them to buy. What goes into the purchase? How is the sale finalized? This is when you have a real proposal, right? That financial analysis that David talked about, how they're going to save money. A before and after picture, whatever it is. Let's see. Greg, are you checking the chat?
Yeah, I'm furiously going back and forth. Yes,
It's
and
hard to see it all.
yeah. Well, one of the things I really liked, again, you've already mentioned it, was this idea of samples. We talked about speaking engagements, but um, VIP memberships, I think, and pop-up shows are kind of right in line with that the whole idea of like how do I create enough, not just awareness, but also then consideration that someone now wants to engage with us, engage with you, to start to really understand we'll use a generalized term here, what's the product market fit between what they're trying to accomplish, the needs that they have, and what you have to offer.
These are such great ideas. And B, I don't know that if you have somebody into your office, if it's strictly consideration or it's consideration and decision. These are not hard and fast, and they can certainly slide one into another, but it's all part of the same. One of the things I think is really interesting, and you may have found this in your line of work in architecture, is that you need to be really clear in the decision stage that you have an actual decision maker that you're talking to. My favorite example is Anderson Windows, which when they come to sell you windows at your house, I don't know if anyone went through this, they won't come unless both members of a household are there because it's too big of a dollar amount for one of them. So like I can't let my husband come home and go, I just decided to spend $120,000 on new windows. We're only going to make that decision together. And I actually think Anderson has got it down to a science. By the time they've got you there, they know how many windows you have, they know how big they are, and you believe that they're going to deliver it and you're ready to say yes, but it's never a one-person decision. And understanding, like when David's selling into a business, he may have an evangelist in the organization, but it might be the CEO he needs to convince, or the CTO, and that may or may not be the person who brought him into the sales conversation. So understanding how your purchase decision is made, and is it made all at once, or can you make it a little at a time? This is why software offers you a sample or lets you have the lowest level for free. And then when you need the higher features, oh, you can't have that unless you upgrade. They know what they're doing, because once you've sampled it, you want more. You want more.
And I think what's really important to appreciate here is that it's the 21st century. And I almost don't care whether you're in retail or in B2B, or even no matter what your product or service is, the customers have the they have their hands on the wheel. They have the ability to uncover a lot of information before they ever interact with you. Again, I'm just going to refer to HubSpot here for as an example. If you look at some of the marketing surveys and research that they have published, they would tell you that at least in the B2B space, 65 to 70% of the buying decision has been made before anyone ever interacts with a sales rep. Now it's going to be different, of course, in retail. But point here is that it's not about how you want to sell. It's about aligning with how your customer buys and and how they make those decisions. And to Deborah's point again, circumstances in different places like Anderson are going to be different. They know what they have to do if they're going to have any chance of getting a decision. They've got to have the right people in the room, and that's how they're going to function, because they know that's how we would make decision about windows if we had a partner.
I don't know if anyone's bought a car lately, but I was reminded of the classic car sales approach, which is before you've said yes to the car, they ask you how you're going to pay for it. Right? It's like, oh, they're already selling you the financing. It's like they're assuming the yes. So there are different sales processes and decision point, but it's only a piece of this bigger journey that we've tried to walk you through. And by the way, it's not over when you close it, and we're going to go there next. But does anyone else have anything to comment? I love your thoughts in the chat, and I'm going to see if I can get these transcribed and include them in the recording, because I think some of the comments that are coming in the chat are just fantastic. Okay, you got them to a decision point. Then you have to actually deliver whatever it is and keep them. What happens next? Do you have somebody who's going to manage that process? David, what happens at your organization?
That's a weak point. I think the methodology that we've always used is we hope that they're getting daily value out of it, and that'll keep them. But frankly, in my organization right now, that is a weak point. I don't do a lot to get retention until after somebody says, "Hey, I have to leave," and then we find out what's
Then you
wrong.
try to rescue it.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, and frankly, most of the time when people leave, thank goodness, it's because they shifted a job or the organization's changed or something like that. It hasn't been the majority of we don't like the product, although that has happened a handful of times. I like the way there are companies like LinkedIn, where if you say, I don't want to do it after the trial, where they'll say, what's the reason? Just automatically on a screen. And if you say price, they'll say, what about if we gave you half off for the next 2 months?
And the bot is doing that.
Well, I think it's even simpler than a bot. I think it's just a really simple algorithm where they give you 5 choices and there are 5 potential answers.
Mm-hmm. I see a really good question about identifying patterns about the customer journey, and I would love to talk about that in the end when we do Q&A, because we have a lot to cover, including breaking into groups for you to work on this. Bonnie, I love you have to stay ahead with the flavor changes, but I think there's onboarding that we maybe miss sometimes. I admit I am just a total fan of spas, like. And there's some spas where you walk in and you have to find your own locker, and where's the robe go and where's the towels. And then there's the places that walk you in and show you where everything is. What a difference in what that experience looks like. And the massage might be exactly the same, but you feel like it was wrapped around you like a warm hug in the right places. So thinking through that journey is really important. So those are the thank you calls and emails, a product walkthrough, onboarding, online and live assistance, follow-ups, and online and in real-time communities and real-life communities around things. Guess what? It's not done when you've retained them. Then you want advocacy. This is back to that referrals. How do you get your customers to become those unpaid evangelists for you so that your client base expands without you doing anything? Is anybody doing this well?
Like, consistency is a good answer, Bonnie, for sure. Absolutely. Google reviews, good.
surveys, loyalty programs, interviews, in-person events, a client party to get the clients talking to each other and bringing their friends. That's fantastic.
Actually, let me touch on that one just for a quick second, Deborah, because I really do think that there's room even for smaller businesses to have some kind of an in-person customer appreciation kind of event. You don't have to put everybody on an airplane and send them to TPC Sawgrass to play golf, but you can do things that, especially for the customers that you've had maybe for the longest, that really are uh, just have become friends. Uh, think about and talk about the possibility of having some kind of a modest event. If you're in the retail business, to have it at your place of business. Uh, I think it's a great way to draw more people into the store or into the business. Uh, yeah, you can do things like have, and again, this starts to cost a little bit more money, but you can have outings of some kind. Maybe you get some group tickets for. I mean, it's not a very good product on the field itself, but a pirate game or things like that, where you get a chance to bring people together who are your greatest advocates. And then my suggestion would be the invitation is to that next layer of advocate that you could get, and some new prospective clients, especially if they're really kind of getting close to that final decision stage, bringing them together in person with your existing customers, and honestly letting your customers do the work for you. Um, Depending on, again, what the revenue per sale is and whether it makes sense. Being together as people, that's what human beings are. We're wired for that for the most part.
So what we're going to do is we're going to put you into breakout rooms and have you help each other figure out if you've nailed your customer journey. And hopefully, as you've been going, you've been making notes on your handout. We're going to have 3 to 4 participants per room, and we're going to give you, I think I'm going to give you till 5 minutes after 5, so a little bit over 20 minutes. So each take 7 or 10 minutes to walk and talk each other through it. And maybe we can help and suggest to each other things that we're too close to see for ourselves. And you're going to be in all kinds of different rooms with all kinds of different people, the baker, the software maker, the spa, the architect. You guys are all going to have to help each other, as we do in Entrepreneurs Forever groups. Listen to what they have to say and see if you can help each other out. And then we'll do a little bit of reporting back. So, ready for some fun? Let's go. I wonder if this guy Zevi is here. Maybe I'll send him into his group. Oh, he has to join for himself, so we'll figure it out. I can stop the recording or pause it anyway. I thought I was giving you a 60-second notice.
I know I clicked on the wrong button.
That was a longer than usual breakout. Hopefully it was
It was
worthwhile.
needed. It was needed.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stages to a customer journey, so that makes sense, right? Mandy, I have to ask, are you someplace warmer than where we all are in the Northeast? No. Welcome back.
No, I needed to hurry up and warm up. I wasn't ready for the cold weather today.
So, sharing, how did it go?
Really good.
I wasn't in a breakout room. I have nothing to share.
Yeah, I mean, it helped me understand some of the ones that I was struggling putting things into. Um, I enjoyed the sharing.
Yeah, I was in with Mandy, and it it definitely helps to bounce stuff off of people, especially in here. I got some of the stages, but there was like two that I wasn't 100% sure about. Um, and but speaking one-on-one with somebody definitely
So,
helps.
did we have any aha moments like, oh, I never really thought about doing that, or it should work this way, or anything like that?
Well, one thing that I've seen recently, and it came up during this conversation, was like when we interact with the clients, really, it's not about us, it's about them. It doesn't really matter what we do, it's about can we help them, and clients want to hear about them.
Excellent
There's
observation.
there's an old saying that is well known in sales circles that the customer's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? I saw Amber.
That's an
I saw
old
you mouthing
saw,
that,
but it's
Amber. I saw
good.
you mouthing that, Amber. You've heard that from me before. And that's what, and honestly, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think that what trying to understand the customer's journey is about is, of course, trying to figure out how to be of service and to earn revenue by being of service. But it is about them and that and the journey that they take. And the more we can understand that, the more we can align with that. I think the more often we're gonna find ourselves meeting on the same path with that prospect who is prepared to and wants to become a customer.
The
Uh,
thing I want to add to what Greg is saying, yes, yes, and so many people have a resistance to this idea of selling. But if you can find this sweet spot where your client is in sync with you and they want and appreciate and need what you have, it doesn't feel dirty and icky. It feels like I'm solving a problem for them, and this makes sense. It's a match. It's not me pushing something on them that they don't want. David, you're laughing.
Deborah, it's never icky unless you make it icky.
I think people feel differently about sales. Not everyone feels
No,
that
I
way.
agree. I agree. I've had this conversation with a lot of people. Those who do not understand what sales are feel that you're trying to get something over on someone. But as talking to most reputable salespeople, that's not the way they act. And I think it's just a question of it's the old what we know of as the old car salesperson, and that's really not a good representation. It's married with children, or the shoe salesman, the car salesman.
Oh, my favorite is Ned, the insurance salesman from Groundhog Day, how he tries to sell him life insurance every single day. Does everybody know that reference? In my
But those are caricatures.
right, that's right.
They've taken one person who is not reputable and made a caricature out of them, and that's what the people who aren't in the business know. Greg and I've had this conversation many times, and I think this is it's a shame, because if more people didn't feel that way, then I think businesses just in general would react much better and would grow much better.
All right, I'm going to actually shortcut this conversation because Greg and I put together a few more slides about sort of some considerations and some pitfalls about this customer journey that we want to share, and then we'll do some more open conversation if that works for everyone.
I want to just hasten to point out too, Deborah, during the breakout session, I did put the link into HubSpot's free persona generator. I know we had listed a couple of sources about the customer journey in that worksheet from HubSpot and from Adobe, but I neglected to put the link in for the free persona builder. So that link is in the chat now.
Great. All right, want to take it from here?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thank you. So the ways in which now we can take what we've done together here, what we've learned together, worked on together now, is to figure out, so what kind of actions can I take in order to get a better understanding about what that customer journey is, and how can I be there to meet them and greet them along the way. And so one of the first things that I think is helpful is to take some kind of an action. And I think the question came up earlier, and I don't remember who had asked it, but how do you find out what your customer's journey looks like? Ask them. Ask some of your best customers. Ask your new customers, right? I think part of one of the things that you want to uncover is just exactly where it was that you became aware of us. What was it that you were trying to do when you invested the time to do that research, and what were some of the most important considerations in making that decision? I think that last one is a really powerful one that oftentimes we don't ask our customers enough. We're happy to get the sale, but we don't know necessarily for sure why. I think what also we want to make.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm just showing oh, for some reason I clicked that link and then it showed it to them. I meant to put it in the chat, which is what I'm trying to do. Nope. I'll get it for you. All right, I'm going to go back to this. There you go.
Thank you. So I think what we want to make sure everybody comes away with, and again, I hope this was really helpful to everyone, just to have a worksheet that Deborah put together to help sort of guide a discovery and an exploration of your own. But again, the important thing here is to start with thinking about who the ideal customers are. Understand how it is that they start their journey, what that journey looks like for them to become a customer. And again, candidly and honestly, the reason you want to know these things is so that you can do a better job of serving the customers that will work best for you, spending your marketing dollars in the best way possible and in the best places possible, and to adjust and refine your strategies and your tactics based on how customers find you, decide on you, and become advocates for you.
So when we have this last couple slides about the pitfalls, and then we're going to do an open discussion, because I think there's still a bunch of questions, and at least one person has said this deserved more than 1 hour. You are absolutely right. It totally did. Greg and I were talking about that ourselves during the break when you guys were in the breakout. And we've taken ideal customer and the 5 different parts of the journey and combined it all into a really short period of time, and then gave you a breakout. But let's talk through the pitfalls, and then we'll have some open conversation.
Oh, sorry, I was reading the chat. Yeah, you're right. This should be a longer series, and I love the fact that somebody's using AI to help them. That could be a multi-day session all by itself as well. But one of the things that I think is important here is that if we're not taking into account the feedback that our customers have to offer, we're putting ourselves at risk. And while things like customer surveys are great, and asking for Google reviews is great, anything that you can do to get positive reinforcement is wonderful. But pitfall 1 suggests build that into your, not just your sales process, build it into your whatever, call it onboarding or purchasing process is. If it's retail, make sure somebody has a QR code they can scan to give you a review right at the register. If you have a loyalty program, make sure they have a really easy way to join it. If you're in the B2B space, have a regular account management review kind of call, right? Make sure that your customers understand that part of what you do is to provide that ongoing service and and to evaluate how you can be of service to them as their business changes. So you got to, I think, really put it into in not just your mindset, but into your SOPs.
You need
This
to
is
build
how
it
we're going to do
into the
this.
process. I would
Yes.
100% agree with that, but I also want to caution you. It's really easy to be distracted by one loud customer who may or may not be correct, right? Like they say, I would buy this if you just had this one feature. And you could probably put your development team on creating that feature. It would take 3 weeks, and they still might not buy. And by the way, those 3 weeks, you didn't sell customers your perfectly good product, whatever it was. It's really easy, especially with an early stage thing, to think to just get distracted and derailed by that. So stick to your guns, acknowledge customer feedback, but don't overreact to a single person or one or a small one, because that would just blow you out of the water. Greg, you're shaking your head. You must have seen this happen more than once, right?
Many times and again, this is a tricky balance that especially startups, or at least in my experience in the B2B startup space, is you think you've found some product market fit. You've gotten some evidence that there is in fact that fit because you do have some customers, but now you've got customers who are saying to you, just like you said, Deborah, I would buy this if it just did this, and this that it doesn't do today. So that's a hard decision for founders to make, especially when the revenue looks appealing and enticing, and you want to think to yourself or believe that this is an indicator of another market or a broader market that I'm not serving today. I don't think there's an easy answer in those situations, and it can be tricky. But here's the thing: if you've identified an ideal customer profile, if you are getting the kind of traction that you want to build your business in that profile, my thought would be the next level out of that market opportunity is still going to be there. Establish that beachhead, own some core portion of that marketplace, and those rings that come out from the bullseye a little farther, they'll still be there. No, don't walk away from an easy sale. Don't walk away from an opportunity, but be careful, be judicious about where you allocate the precious time, money, and resources that you have. And that's why I think it's so important to understand not just who your ICP is, not just what the ideal buyer personas are, but to have an understanding about the journey that your customers go through. And understanding that will avoid these and even more pitfalls, like being distracted, being pulled away from what you're good at, from what you're evolving and developing your relation or reputation in, developing your brand in, to chase that shiny object. And I nodded my head because I've been guilty of that too. It's not hard to fall into that trap. It's avoidable if you're a little more aware.
All right, pitfall 2 is overlooking the post-purchase phase. This is what we've all talked about, making sure you're onboarding and creating a great customer experience that they want to keep being a customer, and you retain them. So selling new clients is way harder than keeping the ones you already have. So do the best you can to keep the ones you already have.
And depending on the kind of business that you're in, sorry, Deborah,
That's okay.
the whole idea of land and expand is really predicated on number 2. Don't have a post-purchase process in place that keeps the customer aware, keeps them engaged, keeps them thinking about ways that they can rely on you to be a trusted partner. And that will continue to build more potential for referrals outside of the organization as well as inside, depending on, again, the nature of that customer.
And the final one is failing to adapt to changes in behavior. And that's continuously updating your customer journey and not assuming that you've nailed it and it's done forever, because it's going to evolve. It's going to change. Your product's going to change. Your customers are going to change. AI is going to change things. I don't know how those impacts are, but this is not a one and done.
Good. That is really that is important to understand and appreciate, that the one thing we can count on is change.
So on that note, I'm going to just stop the recording, and I am going